It's been years since we've had some real updates in Lumber Tycoon 2, and today the game is in desperate need of some. So in this video, I'll be going over 10 updates that I believe would greatly improve Lumber Tycoon 2. And just as a warning, these updates aren't anything too crazy. I am not suggesting any new biomes or boats or any of that complex stuff. Rather, these updates are smaller things that Defaultio should be able to add with relative ease. Anyways, without further ado, let's get right into it. Since the day Lumber Tycoon 2 came out, people have been begging for the addition of corner wedges. If you've ever built something in Lumber Tycoon 2, you've ran into the issue where you have two wedges next to each other and just no way to fill the gap. Now, I already talked about corner wedges and my idea on how they could be implemented in a short that I made a couple months ago, but I'll go ahead and just recap it now. Basically, when placing a wedge, a new button labeled Change could be pressed to swap the wedge blueprint into a corner wedge blueprint of the same size. This implementation allows for the addition of corner wedges without the player needing to buy all of the individual blueprints on all of their slots, which would also clutter up the blueprint manager. Another highly suggested addition to Lumber Tycoon 2 is the Sawmax 03. Now, you may have heard about the Sawmax 03 from a petition that was held in the Lumber Wiki Discord a few weeks ago to try to get it added to the game. However, if you haven't heard about it, let me explain. See, certain trees in Lumber Tycoon 2 have really thick trunks, notably Koa, Cave Crawler, and Spook. These trunks do not fit in the Sawmax 02, which kinda sucks as there is often no way to sawmill these thick logs. The addition of the Sawmax 03 would fix this issue, allowing every part of every tree currently in the game to be sawmilled. Alright. This next suggestion is one that you've probably never heard about, that being the Glass Tinter. The Glass Tinter would be a machine set up in fancy furnishings and, as the name suggests, it would allow the player to obtain stained glass. Using this machine it would be quite simple. First, you would purchase some panes of glass as you normally do. From there, you would place the box panes into the Glass Tinter and select a color of tint by pressing a button to cycle through all of the options. Once you found the color you want, you could simply press the tint button, and then the machine would convert the normal panes into their stained variants. This machine would allow for color glass without having to sell 8 different variants of each pane in the store, which would just be, well, a pain. Now, these next few ideas are very small changes, but I do believe that they would each have a very large impact. Let's begin with the ability to check interactable items, and if you don't know what I mean, let me explain. Many items in Lumber Tycoon 2 have a functionality that occurs when the player presses E on them. For example, when you press E on an axe, it adds it to your inventory. But what if you wanted to simply destroy it, or read its description? See, there's no way to currently do that with interactable items, which kinda sucks. To fix this issue, Defaultio could simply add a new check button on these items and bind it to a different key such as F. While this update is small, it would come in very handy with items such as gifts and axes. The 2022 settings update was a long time coming, and it made permission management much better than it was before. However, the update did miss one key thing, that being a global permissions tab. See, the only global permission offered to the player is the option to allow everyone onto your base. But what if you wanted to give all players another permission? For example, if you had a shop with a vending machine, perhaps you want to grant the Interact with Objects permission to all players so that they could press buttons on the vending machine. Unfortunately, this is not possible without having to go into the Settings tab and updating the permission for each player that joins the server. Thus, adding a global tab into the Settings GUI would allow for a lot more interactability and automation between players. It's impossible to tell whether or not you are blacklisted from someone's base until you walk right up to it, which sometimes results in you being teleported all the way back to spawn. Thus, adding some subtle indication for when you are blacklisted would be a huge plus. This indication could be as simple as just some red gradient decals. Perhaps even the barriers could be completely invisible all the time until the player is only within a few studs of them. There's many possible ways to go about this, but I think the end product would be well worth it. Picture mode is another easy addition that actually already exists in Defaultio's other game, Test 2. This picture mode would be enabled and disabled by pressing a certain key combination such as Shift plus P, and would hide all of the on-screen GUI. This would allow for a better picture-taking experience and would be amazing for capturing clearer photos of your base and general pictures of the map. 2 years ago, the winter map officially returned to Lumber Tycoon 2 as a yearly occurrence, with the event getting a major boost last year with the introduction of Blue Spruce. While the winter map is very cool, it does beg the question of why there aren't any other seasonal map events in the game. New seasonal events would be pretty easy to add, and like the winter event, could introduce some new trees along with them. For example, in the more dead months of the year, such as February and March, there could be a spring-themed map with some slightly lighter grass and cherry blossom particles. In the fall, there could be an autumn-themed map with slightly darker grass and a more colorful sky. The possibilities for new seasonal map events are almost endless, with each potentially introducing 1 or 2 limited tree types and/or items. These last 2 ideas are placeable structures that could be very useful in everyday playing. The first of which is the Icebox, an item that could be bought at Fancy Furnishings. This item would have a very unique functionality, that being the ability to reverse the effects of the volcano. There are many items in Lumber Tycoon 2 that can be cooked in the volcano by leaving them inside for an extended period of time. However, once cooked, the items are stuck like that forever and cannot be reverted back to their original state. The Icebox would fix that and allow items to slowly cool themselves off and return to their original size and/or color. And the final update suggestion I have is the guardless conveyor. When building complicated sawmill systems, it is easy to run into the issue of conveyor guards, as they prevent items from easily exiting a conveyor. This new guardless conveyor would be sold in Wood R Us and would let items exit or enter the conveyor at any point via the use of other logic items such as hatches and doors. While this new conveyor wouldn't be too useful for the casual player, it would be really awesome for more complicated sawmill setups, allowing the player much more freedom in building. Well, that's going to be it for my 10 update ideas. I hope you enjoyed the video and thought that at least some of these ideas are worth being added into the game. If you want to see another video like this in the future, or if you have any ideas of your own, feel free to leave it all down in the comments down below and I'll be sure to read it. Anyways, this is going to be it for me. Goodbye.